Winters here with horse racing tips for Saturday, the 28th of March. Well, it's the first day of the flat season at Doncaster, and it's the Brocklesby, or the Brockles. Well, it's not the Brocklesby meeting, it's a Lincoln. So let me get straight into it. So there's 5 selections I really like the look of. It's a very tricky card, obviously, because the vast majority of horses haven't ran so far this season, and if they have, it's either been at Maidan or it's been on the all-weather. I like these puzzles, but you can quite easily be left with egg on your face. So I'm going to talk you through my 5 selections, tasty prices, but what I have done, I've split the stake down the middle. So I've had a 25 pence each way, lucky 31, all horses at SP, then 25p each way, well, the same bet again, and then I've taken all the prices. So let me get into it. The first selection is James's Delight in the 150 at Doncaster. This horse ran in this race last year and it was favourite for the race at 3-1. This time around it's got a high number this time, whereas last time it was drawn 1. It finished beaten about 4 lengths behind Spycatcher in this race last year. I think you need to take an opinion of where do you think the draw bias will be. Well, I've looked over the last 2 years, and I've also looked at the November meeting, and on similar ground, or when ground's on a little bit on the slow side, and to be fair, it's only a little bit on the slow side. It's good to soft in places. By race time, I'm expecting it to be probably good to soft all over. You may think that may mean that there's no draw advantage, but what I'm going to go for is, early on, I do definitely think they'll come straight down the middle, like an arrow formation. But then, as the meeting progresses, I do think they'll gradually edge near side. So what I'm expecting is middle numbers early on, but then I'm thinking more towards middle and high. I've had to take an opinion on that, because I think the best thing to do is have an opinion. If you're wrong, you're wrong. But having that kind of opinion actually eliminates, well, basically one half of the draw, or a third of the draw at least, the low numbers. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get into it, and basically my selections are middle to high numbers. So the first selection, like I said, is James's Delight in the 150 at Doncaster. It's currently 8-1 and it's drawn 12. The next selection is High on Hope in the 225 at Doncaster in the William Hill Spring Mile. I like the look of this. Yeah, I do. I like the look of this horse. It came from, I believe, don't quote me, I believe it came from George Bowie or maybe even James Fanshawe, this horse, last year. It's now trained by Michael Appleby. It's drawn high. I think it's drawn, just give me a second, it's drawn, I believe is 15 of 22. Drawn high, and in the past it's either ran up with the pace or been held up. So I don't quite know how they are going to race it tomorrow. But what we do know is it's very fit from the all-weather. The interesting thing is, it was running okay for James Fanshawe, or whoever the trainer was, James Fanshawe or George Bowie, on the turf off just a £3 lower mark. So now it's only £3 higher, and I think, personally, I think they've aimed it for this race. That's what I'm basically saying. When Michael Appleby took this horse over, it ran well in its first couple of runs, and I think that Michael Appleby would have thought we might have a Lincoln horse on his hands here, or we might have a Spring Mile if it doesn't get in the Lincoln. And what they've done is, since they've ran it on the all-weather, and it goes on the all-weather, but it may not be suited as much as it would be over the same distance on turf. So that's literally why its handicap mark has only gone up £3. So I think they've got a very fit and a well-handicapped horse that could run well tomorrow. They are paying something like, I think is it 6 places at Sky Bet. So high on hope. I think it's about 14-1 at the moment. I did see 22s, but Whether it was actually ever 22s, I'm not quite so sure, but it's definitely a fit, and I think it's being aimed at this race. Even though it's being aimed at this race, doesn't mean it'll come placed or win. It's just, I believe this is its early season target. The next selection is a horse where I am a massive fan of the trainer. So the third selection is Shout in the 332 at Doncaster in the William Hill Lincoln. And this horse is trained by Simon and Ed Crisford. I think they're excellent. Well, I think they're an excellent combo trainer. They've got trainers. No, they haven't. They've got horses running all over the world and doing extremely well all over the world. I think what they normally say is to win the Lincoln off one of the higher weights, it needs to be a listed or group horse. Well, I think this potentially is. I would have liked to have seen it run in some kind of all-weather race beforehand. Whether my preference would have been it to run okay in some kind of trial on the all-weather where it had made it possibly had like a bad trip where it would drawn wide, race wide, still ran okay, and I'd have been more than happy with that. Then I'd have been very confident that this was its early season target. It came there fit, and it came there after running pretty well, but unfortunately it hasn't had a run. It may be absolutely catching pigeons, we don't know, but I do like the fact that they've got Robert Haviland booked. I don't know how many times it does actually ride for Simon Crisford, but I'm not seeing him on too many mounts. So yeah, Shout is roughly about 8 to 1. The next selection is Powerful Response in the 440 at Doncaster. This horse probably isn't a handicap snip and going to win with his head in its chest, but what you do know is it's definitely been aimed at this race. It's come, I believe, since Jeff Harker took this horse, it's come 4th and 5th in this race. Clearly it's been aimed at this race. I think it's got a decent chance, and I think they're paying first 4, so I'm expecting a decent run. And it's got, is it Tom Keely Marshall on board? Quite an experienced jockey for a claimant, to be fair, but I think it should give it a decent ride, and I think it's got an each way chance. I think it's currently 16 to 1. The next selection is Miner's Gamble in the 515 at Doncaster. But just before I tell you about this one, just give me 1 second. Yeah, so this is the last selection, and it's Miner's Gamble. But like I said, just before I tell you about this one, it's up to you whether you put a quid each way, 50p each way, whatever you want to do. But there's a horse in this race that has got like question marks, squiggles and everything all over it. And it's a horse, I can't back it, but it's called Dissident, and it's trained by Josh and Gary Moore. When it ran on the turf for the previous trainer, its first 3 runs to get a handicap mark was well above the handicap mark that it's got now. I think it's off something like 65 now, and its first 3 races in like a maiden or novices were like something like 71, 73 and 79 for the Racing Post ratings. This horse is more than capable of running its race. However, the reason why I can't go for it is because it's shown absolutely nothing. However, the reason why it's shown nothing is because it's been campaigned over hurdles. So we basically know nothing about Dissident. If you want to have a daft 50p each way, you could see it being a huge prize. And Josh and Gary Moore stable are the kind of stable where all of a sudden you can have a 50 to 1 win with its head in its chest. So if anybody's interested in a big prize to chuck in the forecast or tricast or whatever you want to do, or even in just a big prize lucky, I wouldn't put you off Dissident, but it's not a confident choice. And that is why I've gone for Miner's Gamble, because I think Miner's Gamble is one of those horses similar to, which one did I say earlier on? Similar to, Hope on High, where it's got a decent turf mark. It was running well on the turf. It's been running on the all-weather, a bit in and out, and now it's back on the turf, and I think it's extremely well handicapped. And I believe it's trained by Brian Ellison. I might be wrong, double check. I'm not going to check now, but it was a long time ago since I was looking at these. But I think Miner's Gamble is a very well handicapped horse with a very shrewd trainer. So those are the 5 selections. There will be football selections. If you want to check those out, they will be in the description and the first comment by about 9 a.m. So I wish you the very best of luck. If you want to leave me a comment, I'm more than happy for you to leave a comment, especially if I've made a mistake. There's people are very quickly to pounce upon the fact that I mentioned there were 40 runners in the Grand National. Whoops, sorry, there were only about 80 runners when I was looking. So I think a slip of the tongue is okay, really. All right, there's 6 less runners. There's 34 runners. So let's see what happens. But check out my Grand National video. You'll see it at the end of this video. I've picked 3 selections, 3 interesting ones, and definitely 3 horses where people have got mixed opinions about. So I wish you the very best of luck. Charlie Winters, over and out. Cheers, mate.